We could do it on a drum set with an SPDSX just like we were, or we could also just use any MIDI device. And the same thing's happening, right? And you can see the parameters changing here. Let's look at our transform. There's our rotation, our displace weight. Super cool, really. You can see it in Ableton too. Let's see. Pretty cool. Get into some of the nitty-gritty of this project. So you can see here that I already have a visual system set up and functioning, right? And you guys are welcome to either copy the system or use one that you already made. But the main idea is to make any audiovisual system audio reactive based on MIDI input, right? And to do that, we're going to use our TD Ableton package. So go ahead and drag and drop that in here. And you can see it already is communicating with Ableton Live that I have opened up over here, right? So as soon as I drag and drop that TD Ableton, it sends a signal to Ableton Live and they start communicating. So now let's go into that package and we're gonna copy a track and paste it outside of the package. And then let's go back to Ableton. Let's actually insert one more MIDI track and we're gonna name all of these. So now if we go back to our track, you could see we have all of those options here. So let's start with our kick. Perfect. Okay, now the next step is to isolate specific elements so that we can send them. We're gonna just go ahead and drag a drum rack into this one. And then we could take any sample. Let's just look for kick samples. Now that every time I hit my kick in Ableton, it sends a signal. Perfect. Okay. So now we need to isolate this signal. So we're going to do a select. We're going to grab the meter level, and then let's throw a null in there. And now I can actually use this to change any parameter I want of my visuals, right? So let's go ahead and go into the transform, and I want to change the rotate, which right now I have animated, but instead of having it animated, let's do this. So every time I hit the kick, oh, you know what? I'm going to need a count to do that. Count. All right, now every time I hit the kick, it's going to start counting. So 1 hit, 2 hits, and it's just going to count indefinitely, and that'll work for me. So let's go back to the transform, and it's already in here, right? So every time I hit the kick, this is rotating by 1 degree. But to make it more visible, let's multiply this by 10 so that every time I hit the kick, it's actually going to rotate 10 degrees. Let's see. There we go. Now you can see I already have a problem, and that's that my level has to go all the way back down before I can actually give it another count, right? Because if I do this, it's not doing anything. My level has to go all the way back down. So what we could do is actually edit this MIDI to be way quieter, and then we're going to make this clip teeny tiny. And now it's just a tiny signal. But I have more control over it. The trade-off, though, is that I don't get that nice kick sound now, right? I'm just getting like a We can go down even a little lower. So what we can do is add another MIDI channel. And this is the one that we're actually going to be hearing, right? And we're going to do the same thing. We're going to drag a drum rack into there. And in our drum rack, we're going to put a kick sample. And now when I hook this up to my drum kit, anytime I hit the kick, it's going to send a signal to this one and to this one. So I'll get the sound and the signal that I want. Okay. What else can we do? Well, we could copy paste this and get us something out of the snare now. Disconnect. So instead of the kick, we want our snare. And then same exact thing. We're just going to do the same process that we did for the kick. We're going to do it for the snare. And we're going to end up doing it for the FX too, right? Okay, now that we have these set up for all of our tracks, what we could do is choose new parameters to change, right? So maybe every time I want the snare, I want my noise, maybe I want my harmonic gain to change, or maybe my displace weight, right? So every time I hit my snare, I want it to be displaced. So what we can do is we're going to add a math in here so that it's not displaced by so much. And let's change this, multiply by 0.1. All right, now let's go into the displace, and I'm gonna copy paste that parameter, and then I'm gonna do plus 0.2 0.27 because that's what I had before, plus 0.27. Maybe that's not what I had before. 0.27, okay. So on both of these, I'm going to do plus. Same thing in this one. So now my minimum value is what I had before. And every time I hit the snare now, there we go. Now every time I hit the snare, it's going to displace, right? So every time I hit the kick, I get a rotation. Every time I hit the snare, I get more displace. And you guys could change, the thing is, any of these parameters, right? Instead of the displace weight, you could do noise, you could change the period, but the idea is that you want to decide how much you want to change it by, put that into the math, and then drag and drop the channel into the parameter, right? So for example, now if we wanted to change, yeah, like we could say if we wanted to change the harmonic gain of the noise with our FX, same thing. We just take this channel coming from our FX and we drag and drop it into harmonic gain. But we want some, so we'll do plus 0.4. There we go. And now if I click on my FX, there we go, I get this cool effect. And I could do more than one thing, right? It doesn't have to be just one thing per change. I could also use my FX to change the amplitude. Now it's changing two things. Cool. My kick does the rotation. My snare is the displace, but I don't have any displace weight right now. So yeah, that's the idea. Now let's talk about getting into the kit. Into the kit.